61% of the women who were surveyed said they expect to be better off financially in 2025 than they were in 2024.
So half of women who retired last year did it gradually. So meaning they worked part-time, they shifted responsibilities, or took on more flexible jobs. Comparing that to only 19% of women who retired gradually 20 years ago.
Just having a plan in place and the fact that almost 70% of the women who are surveyed have one is fantastic. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, so good to see you as always.
Great to see you too, as always. Beautiful, smart, lovely Atricia.
Aw.
I could keep going on and on, but
You're too kind.
our listeners are busy. Our listeners are busy. We got to get down to it. Welcome back, everybody, to Living Richly with Curo, episode 68. Feels like a lucky episode. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But, right? Yeah, we'll go with it. My name is Anne McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth, and I'm joined, as always, as I mentioned, by my lovely partner, Atricia.
Hello, I am Atricia Roberts, COO and partner here at Curo. Thanks so much for checking us out today.
Thank you. One and all, thanks for coming back if you've listened to us or watched us before. And thank you for tuning in for the first time. We realize that you are busy and, the giving of your time is a huge gift to us and we appreciate it.
For sure. We love you all the same.
Yes, we do. And as always, we are here to educate, to inspire, to empower you. And today we are really excited about our topic. Every time we talk about anything related to women and wealth, those tend to be very well received episodes. So today we're going to talk about some recent research that has come out on the state of women and wealth, some of the positives, some of the challenges that we face, and we are going to break it all down for you today. So what we did for today's episode is we actually dug through 3 different studies that were recently done by Fidelity, UBS, and Ellevest, and they were all focused on the state of women's financial health, and some of the findings are pretty fascinating. So today we're going to break down what women are prioritizing, so you can decide if these priorities are in line with what you are also focused on, the unique challenges that we as women face, and how the upcoming great wealth transfer, which we will talk about, is completely reshaping the way that women show up in our economy. And there's some pretty, I would say, exciting pieces of news that we're going to share with that. So first, we're going to start with where women stand financially right now. And this data comes from the Fidelity study that we mentioned. And this study shows that women are feeling pretty optimistic. So 61% of the women who were surveyed said they expect to be better off financially in 2025 than they were in 2024. So that's good news. 68% have a plan to reach their goals, which is fantastic. As we know, because we are planners here, first and foremost at Curo, that when you have a plan, not only does your confidence level go up, but you have clarity around where you're going. Even if you have to pivot, even if you have to tweak your plan, just having a plan in place, and the fact that almost 70% of the women who are surveyed have one is fantastic. And 80% of these women plan to focus on building up their emergency fund or cash reserves, as we like to call it here at Curo. And we talk about that all the time, especially if you've tuned in before, we're constantly nagging about having proper liquidity and proper cash reserves. So 80% focusing on building up those emergency funds is fantastic news.
Yeah, great numbers. Again, it's an ongoing theme here at the Living Richly with Curo podcast. So we love that. One of the biggest shifts that we've seen with women is how we approach retirement. So half of women who retired last year did it gradually. So meaning they worked part-time, they shifted responsibilities, or took on more flexible jobs. Comparing that to only 19% of women who retired gradually 20 years ago. And if you want to learn a little bit more about downshifting or this sort of idea of gradual retirement, please check out episode 57 of the Living Richly podcast. We talk all about that. Also, younger women, and this is especially Gen Z and millennials, are making retirement a bigger priority. So nearly half say they plan to increase their retirement savings this year. Now, Ann and I are technically zennials, I think is the
Oh my
term for
God,
us.
we're like ancient millennials.
Geriatric millennials, I've heard
Geriatric
someone call it
millennials.
before.
That is what
Um,
we are.
but I would definitely say if I were surveyed, I would probably agree with this. Retirement is a bigger issue for me because I don't want to work until I'm 85 years old. And then nearly half of women retirees are either still working, have worked, or are thinking about working in retirement. So if you have listened to our podcast before, we many times like to refer to retirement as a work optional phase of life. And we definitely see that more women are actually opting into work even once they're officially retired.
All right, so let's now shift gears and talk about healthcare, which is one of the biggest expenses that we are all going to face as we move into retirement. And the bad news for women is that we are going to, or we should expect to pay more than men do for healthcare. So women should expect to spend about $175,000 on healthcare in retirement, which is a large sum of money. And about 10% higher than men are expected to pay, and nearly 17% higher than it was just a few years ago. So we have definitely seen the rate of inflation for healthcare increase greater than the overall inflation rate that we see in the broad economy. And for many women who feel worse about their finances than they did 5 years ago, unexpected medical costs were one of the big reasons why. So, no surprise that rising healthcare costs are among women's top concerns in 2025. Now, one of the tools that we talk a lot about on this podcast and with our clients is called a health savings account or an HSA. We did a whole episode on HSAs, which was episode number 6. So if you are interested in learning more about HSAs, check that out. So more women are contributing to HSAs, which is great. However, less women have the money in their HSAs invested than men do. And this is a big deal because if you use HSAs the way that we recommend, which is to leave as much money as possible in the HSA, it's really important for this strategy to be maximized for the money to be invested. Now, you'll have to leave some portion of your HSA in cash. So you can't invest 100%. Usually it's about $2,000 or so that you have to leave in cash. But please, if you do have an HSA, make sure that the rest of it is invested so that that money can compound and grow over your life until you need to use it in the future.
Yes, such a powerful tool. Again, another topic we love talking about here on the
Yes.
podcast. So let's talk a little bit about caregiving. So now women are still the primary caregivers in most of their families, and we find that this takes a real toll financially. So 41% of women caregivers say their relationship with money is stressful. They're worried about unexpected expenses, inflation, and just mentioned the incredibly rising cost of healthcare, and economic uncertainty. And then, unfortunately, women are 3 times more likely than men to retire early to care for loved ones. So, no matter how we get around it, it is usually the woman that has to step in as the caregiver. We've talked a little bit on about this podcast about the sandwich generation of women who are caring for aging parents, along with caring for children who are still in the household. So let's zoom out a little bit because while women are juggling those day-to-day challenges, there is a seismic shift coming that we're very excited about. And if you want to tell us
Yes.
about that shift.
I will. I will. And this could really change everything. And this is called the Great Wealth Transfer. So listen up because over the next 2 decades, it is estimated that 105 wait for it, trillion
Trillion.
with a T,
T.
trillion T dollars. That is so much money, y'all.
That's so much money.
$105 trillion dollars will be passed down from baby boomers, and much of it will go to women. And part of that is because women tend to live longer. But here is what the Ellevest study recently found specifically about the great wealth transfer to women. 45% of women who were surveyed either already have or expect to inherit wealth. The typical inheritance is around $300,000. And this is super exciting. The biggest impact is not just financial. They found that it's confidence. It's an increase in confidence, which we love to hear. Because what happens is women's confidence jumps from 45% in the survey to 80% when they receive or even expect to receive. Maybe they haven't actually received the inheritance, but they expect that it's coming down the pike. Women can, in fact, become more confident than men when it comes to their finances, which is completely the opposite of what we typically see, where
Mhm.
women are typically less confident about their finances. So, this finding is huge because it shows us that the so-called confidence gap that we are all very familiar with is less about women lacking skills or knowledge around financial topics and more about women historically having less access to wealth. So the fact that this seismic shift, as Atricia just mentioned, is coming down and could completely change everything is super, super exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so exciting to hear that even just the confidence shift that women could experience because of this transfer is incredible.
Yeah,
But
and we
Mhm.
actually, oh, sorry, before you
No,
go
go
on,
ahead.
we actually, as we speak, are onboarding two different clients. These are ladies in their 60s in both cases, who either recently received an inheritance from a passing parent or are in the process of receiving an inheritance. And in both of these cases, these ladies had never worked with an advisor before. They never really felt like they needed to
Mhm.
or had access to. And so, even in our firm here locally, we're noticing that this is happening. And it's fantastic that women are reaching out to us. We love
Yeah.
that. And that we can be a valuable guide and advisor to them as they're going through this transition phase.
Yeah. The access to wealth is really changing the game, so to speak, for women. But of course, there are challenges. So, some of the challenges we want to address. So, in a UBS study, they found that nearly a third of the women who inherited money from parents had never actually had a conversation about it beforehand. And we have experienced that a lot. I even now work with multi generational families where one generation is not talking to the other about what is to come. 80% of women inheritors face difficulties, typically from unexpected taxes or just from long delays. And if you've ever had to go through the probate process for any family member, you know how long those delays can be. And then the other challenge, and this is a big one that we see a lot, is that widows often struggle to locate all of their spouse's assets. I cannot tell you the number of times when we have had to work with women clients who have lost a husband, and half the work is just on helping them figure out where everything is. So, what do women who inherit this money do? It varies, of course, by generation, which is interesting, but the top priorities for most women are to invest it, which is excellent news. Of course, we love to hear that. Put it in the bank, or interestingly enough, spend it on travel, which is also good to hear that women are finally taking some time to do the things they've always wanted to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good too because I think in a lot of studies that we've read in the past, women have less of a tendency to invest because women
Hmm.
generally are more risk adverse. They'd rather just have their money in the bank in sort of a quote unquote safe account than invest it. So I'm happy to see that. I know that it depends on the generation, but I'm happy to
Hmm.
see that a lot of women decide to invest the funds. It's great, great news. Great change as well. Okay, so we have a little bit more not so great news, and that is that only 38% of women say they have a financial advisor to help them navigate this inheritance or this wealth transfer. So that is a pretty staggering
Mhm.
statistic, especially when you think about how much wealth is about to be transitioned. And these are big decisions, and it's really important for women to have advisors who can help them really make sound decisions and for them to feel confident that they're doing the best that they possibly can with this inheritance that they're about to receive. So here are the key takeaways from these three different studies that we are bringing to you. The first takeaway is that women are feeling more optimistic, which is great. We're saving, we're investing, and we are planning for the future, which gives us confidence. But preparation is key. So whether it's planning for those extra healthcare costs that we mentioned, navigating caregiving and the challenges that come with that, or preparing for an inheritance, the difference between being completely stressed out and having the confidence comes down to having a plan and having the right people in your corner.
For sure. And one of the, I think, the bigger takeaways from this conversation is that Ann and I are so passionate about, so driven and energized to help women investors. It's what we do. We love to work with and partner with women who want to take control of their financial lives, who want to have clarity around their financial futures, and also just to help engage them and drive the conversations that they're not having, whether that's with spouses or even with parents. And I think a lot of the challenges around wealth transfer is just about the unknown and the unexpected and the things that happen when you don't plan and you don't have a conversation. And we are really excited about having the opportunity to drive those conversations and to help guide our clients, especially our women clients, into more secure financial futures. So, of course, we would absolutely love to be here for you. If you are one of those women investors who are feeling confident about the future and want to take control and want to take the next steps and make sure you're thinking about all the things and having all of the conversations, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. It's literally why we exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that's really different about us is, the name Curo means to care. We actually had a lady reach out to us this week who found us online, and she had been with an advisor for over 10 years with a large firm. I'm not going to name names, but she used this word mansplaining
Mhm.
multiple times in our conversation. She's like, I'm sick of being mansplained. I'm sick of feeling like he's patting me on my head, like,
Oh,
oh, you little girl. She's, like in her 60s, a very
right.
successful lady. And she's like, I'm done with the mansplaining. I'm done with the condescending, conversation and not answering my questions and just telling me that I need to trust him. And again, she had been with this advisor for 10 years and is looking for a change. So we promise we will not mansplain you. We'll womansplain you. We'll take the time to explain the things, to educate you, to empower you. Because as Atricia mentioned, we are super passionate and we both feel very grateful that we get to do our life's work here with our clients and with our awesome team. So,
Yeah, fantastic. And thank you for sharing that story. We always to want to empower even the female partners in relationships with the clients that
yes.
we work with, because one of the challenges we mentioned is that sometimes when women lose their husbands, they don't know where things are or what things are. So we also work with couples, and we always want the woman to feel empowered in that situation, to know where everything is. Nothing should be a surprise if the worst does happen. So we do our best to empower you even in your partnerships. We promise we won't mansplain or treat you like you're the passenger in your financial car.
Yeah, yeah, great point. And a lot of times when couples hire us, even the husband will say the reason that we want to work with you is because we know that statistically speaking, it's likely for us to pass away first. And we
Hmm.
want, our wives to feel comfortable that they're in good hands and that they know they can just call you all and you'll have it all handled. So
Yeah. Get so excited to have this conversation. I love
I
talking
know.
about women and the opportunities in front of us. So,
I know. Well, it's exciting too because we, a couple of years ago, got really clear on who we wanted to be moving forward and who we wanted to serve. And it's just awesome that it's all coming together.
yeah. Love that.
Fun times. All right, y'all. Well, that wraps us for another week of Living Richly with Curo. What closing thought do you have for us, Atricia, before we let
Yeah.
everybody go?
Again, nothing super deep today, but one of the exercises we worked on as a team this week, or are working on as a team, is establishing our actual core values, and not in a way where we don't know who we are as a firm, but sort of those unspoken things that we want to document and know who we are and be able to articulate really well. And it got me thinking about personal value systems and ethos and challenging myself to sort of create my own value system, right? What's important to me to ensure that I'm living out my authentic self and doing it in a way. So I'll keep you guys updated on that, but I'm
Ooh.
still working through, I'm trying to find three, right? Just three words that
Mm-hmm.
talks about my personal value systems and think, I mean, now you and I always come up with a word that we want to focus on every year, but thinking about this one a little bit different, just to define who I want to be, how I want to show up in the world, what I want to leave to the world as far as legacy. So more information to follow.
Yay. I can't wait. It's exciting. That's awesome. Yeah, that was a really fun exercise. I was really impressed at how everybody showed up so prepared and had thought
Yeah.
really thoroughly through what they wanted to share, and that everybody got a chance to have their voice heard, which I think is important. So,
Yeah.
my closing thought is for those of you all out there raising teenagers, I see you, I feel you. The struggle is real sometimes. And I am currently reading a book about raising teenagers, just like some of the things that are going on in the developing brain of a teenager. And one of the analogies that this is a psychologist who wrote this book, one of the analogies that he talks about made everything so clear for me is he said that think about having a Ferrari engine. You'll like this as a car person. Think about having a Ferrari engine inside the body of like a 1990 Kia. He's like, that is what is going on with teenagers because on the one hand, you've got like that Ferrari engine,
hmm
like so much energy, so much passion, so much raging, so many raging hormones, but the prefrontal cortex of the brain is not fully developed until age 25. And he talks about the fact that the development of the brain actually starts from the back and then goes forward. And so in my case with Goalie, who is 13, we are talking like very early stages of adult brain development here. And he's like, literally, it's like dealing with an adult who is crazy, like who
Yeah.
has been deemed insane. What you're dealing with is like an insane adult. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, no wonder. Like it all
That
makes sense
tracks.
now. Completely tracks. So he's like, don't try to rationalize with them. And, Wally and I are very rational people, as you know, like I make my decisions based on facts. And
hmm
when Goalie brings things to the table, I'm like, no, that's actually factually not true. But this guy is saying like, you can't try to rationalize. They are literally crazy people. And so
Yeah.
it's been really helpful, even though it's like kind of terrifying to think
I
about,
feel like it's scary, but
but it's an explanation that makes sense and it at least gives me some clarity around like what are the strategies that are going to work with a teenager
hmm
and what are the ones that are just absolutely not going to work. So I've been thinking about that metaphor of the Ferrari engine in a Kia chassis and I'm like, okay, that's what I'm dealing
yeah.
with.
Yeah, I think about it often that at some point you're gonna have just a house full of all teenage boys.
No, I already have three teenage boys. Like are like presently, I have three teenage boys in my house. It's
Yeah, but you still
bananas.
have one who's still kind of like
Oh,
your little
sweet. My
baby, so
baby.
sweet. At one point,
Oh,
at some point, that's gonna change. One, I feel sorry for your grocery bill. That's one,
oh,
because how people feed teenage
insanity.
boys, I can't even begin to wrap my mind around. But just all of that young testosterone and energy just running around. We're going to have to schedule like a girls getaway for you every year.
Oh, for sure. Please, for sure. Yeah. It's a little crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should already see the amount of food that they eat. We'll make these like pasta dishes and these,
Hmm.
casserole. And I'm like, oh, surely we'll have leftovers. No, zero, zero leftovers. So, anywho, for those of you raising teenagers, that is my thought of the day. And I hope it
Good luck,
helps.
guys. Good luck. Stay strong.
We need it. We need it.
They won't be
All right,
teenagers
everyone.
forever.
No, they won't. I can't. Yeah. And when they're 25 and their brain is fully developed, we can be like, okay, now we can have rational conversations. I
Right.
can't wait. All right, everyone. Well, thanks again for tuning in. We will see you or you will hear us again next week. And until then,
Live richly.
thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Friendly reminder that this is for informational purposes only. For additional information, please visit us at www.curoprivatewealth.com. Until next time, live richly.